All right, thank you, Max. We are now going to bring in Fabio Speaks. He is joining us from San Jose, California, and he is the founder and CEO of Brainial. And they provide artificial intelligence that currently increases from 5% to 10% industrial production by direct controlling and optimizing in real-time industrial process machinery. Welcome in, Fabio. If you could unmute yourself and start your video, please. See, we're working on screen share. Here we go.
Yeah, can you see me?
Yep, you are good to go.
All right, thank you very much. Sorry, Max. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate everyone here coming back because I had great feedback from the last time I was here as well. Love the format. So I'm Fabio Speaks, CEO and founder of Brainial. So we're bringing AI optimization to very large industrial companies. We so far have 100K in revenues, and we just started our sales and marketing motion. So the problem we are solving is industrial plants are very inefficient. They are not using all the data they're generating to fine tune and to have more sophisticated software to control their processes in a more harmonious way. But they have access to this data and to these controls, automation controls, but they are not using it. They're using it barely scratching the surface. And this leaves trillions of dollars in productivity in the table. And we developed a technology that's a SaaS-based AI system that increases production. And we connect to that control and data piece of software that those companies have to better control their machinery. And this is the theory, and this is I'm gonna go to the next step. So this is our team, the founder and co-founder, me and Claudio. We have a team of six people, 3 in Brazil, 3 in the US. My family provides services to the industrial companies for the past half a century. I've been leading data and AI for Microsoft for 8 years. I led that for the company. Was one of the youngest people. I wasn't the youngest people in 2008 to be in the strategic board for the company. Claudio also serviced industrial and developed software for the last 25 years for the industrial sector. So this is the result. This is the actual result. So this is the case we just deployed. $250 million operation. We increased $15 million in their annual revenues, which is 6% increase in throughput, more than 1,000 hours the technology in use. And now we are moving forward with the signature of a contract for a single operation, expanding to other 5 operations with this customer. The way we see the operation, top 100 largest mining companies in the world, it's about $1 trillion total revenue combined, 10% average gain, 100 billion in gains, 3% fee, it's 3 billion in potential annual recurring revenue for us. 20% of that comes from Brazil. I'm Brazilian. And looking to other mining companies, other sectors, production sectors, equals to 52 billion that we are interested in expanding. This is how we want to go. We want to scale and aggressively expand this technology and impact production and revolutionize production, and the impact that production have in the environment as well, decrease that impact. Our focus is pretty much start our recurring revenues and move to against after those 100 companies. So we're looking for 60x returns on IPO or acquisition for the investors, and this is what we are raising: $2 million to generate 3.2. Safe or convertible note, $8 million cap with 20% discount and 8% interest. That's it.
Thank you. And just to be clear, the cap is 18 million, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. All right, good. Questions for Fabio? Armando, please.
I love this company. The first time I saw it, the slides are better this time. I love it even more. You got rid of the squiggly slide. Awesome.
Yeah.
You hit the
Thank you.
punchline, 6% improvement. That's really what matters. Awesome. And you have a very clear go-to-market. It's very targeted. So just, how do I get a question out of this?
Yeah.
So, I don't have a question.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That was your
Thank you,
feedback.
Armando.
We'll skip you on feedback, but I like your comments. Okay, Yuka, and then John, and then Aaron.
Yeah, hi Fabio. This is a good example of, when you come for the second time to pitch force and you refine your pitch, it gets tighter and crisper and clearer. So well done on that. Just a quick question about the revenue model. You're talking about 3%, essentially a 3% performance-based fee of the improvements that your customers would get. What's the feedback from prospective customers about whether they would really be able to or willing to pay a percentage-based fee to you, as sometimes these gains are not as precisely isolatable to your technology, and many of them are used to more paying different types of technology licensing fees or subscription fees. So can you talk a bit about the revenue model and what kind of feedback you're getting from customers?
Yeah, thanks, Yuka, and thanks for the compliments as well. Yeah, it's a great question. So feedback we are getting, some customers do prefer to take more risk on and provide us with more incentive to push for more results for them, and that's on the percentage base. But some customers prefer a fixed price. So we are in this early stage that we're in between those. This model that we either do a calculation and give them a fixed price, or we go with a model with the percentage. We're aiming on this percentage. This is an average. Of course, sometimes there's discount. But it's a great question. Right now, I think it's a moment of discovery, and we feel there is a difference. For example, in culture, in Brazil, they do prefer much more fixed price. There is more open discussions for percentage when we talk to Canadians and Americans, for example, in the U.S. and Canada.
Okay, John, and then Aaron, and we'll finish up with Asim if we have time. John?
Yeah, Yuka asked my question, so let me just kind of take a little bit spin on that with the 3%. 3% sounds low to me in terms of if you really are saving that much money, how you actually are going to measure that. How quantifiable is that, and is that something that's just going to be? I think the reason why Americans like that 3% is because they're going to say, all right, prove it to me. All the risk is on you, and then once you've proven that you saved that money, then they're going to come back and renegotiate the price down to a fixed amount anyway. So exactly how big? I mean, I'll let you address that.
Yeah, it's a great question, John. So the reasoning behind the 3% is a outrageous amount of value generation for the customer and a quick expansion for the company. It's way above our costs, so we get profits. The return on investment for the customer is very high, and those are traditional customers, right? Those are industrial companies. They're very traditional. They're harder to deal with and to move commercially. So we are easing as much as possible to accelerate this value generation versus any resistance we can get in the markets. And we've been creating a very steady and powerful $8 million currently annual recurring revenue pipeline that we have with different companies.
Okay. We're just going to have time for one more question. Aaron, and Asim, you'll have to turn your question into a declarative statement. I know you're capable of doing.
Yeah, thank you. This was a very good presentation. I'm curious, two questions. What does risk mean to you, particularly government risk? I mean, you've got a new administration with Lula, a big shift from Bolsonaro, but, the regulations are still unclear. And also, are you looking at other, in LATAM, other markets, Argentina and Chile and Bolivia? Or are you looking at other even markets in Canada? Obviously, you can't go to, Russia. China has their market as well, but political risk as well as other markets.
Okay, yeah. So our main focus is right now is Americas. So companies in Silicon Valley. We focus on U.S., Canada, and Brazil. We want to expand to Asia and Europe as well, and Australia is a big player. 20% of the mining sector revenues are pretty much coming from Brazil. That's one of the reasons. Although political changes happen in Brazil, it's been very steady. The amount of revenue generation and production on the mining sector has been steady for the last, I don't know, maybe half a century at least. So I don't see a lot of change that could impact us in terms of risk of regulation, because we are just like a new service to those customers. So we don't. We can, in fact, we can sometimes provide something that they are looking for, which is the ESG part, because since we are more efficient, we save them energy, and they also use less chemicals, which impacts less the environment. So it would be positive for us.
Okay, thank you. And if you'll mute yourself now, Fabio, Eric, if you would start the feedback in this round, please.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good presentation. I know a number of the panelists have seen you present previously. I haven't had that benefit, so coming at this for the first time, I think you did a great job quantifying the savings for the customers. You really were thoughtful about, you know, the revenue pipeline and the opportunity. That all sounds terrific. I think you could have spent a little bit more time focusing on the implementation and just really what it looks like, you know, across a couple of different customer experiences. Does your software sit on top of the existing control software? Does it require that legacy systems have to be swapped out? What's the learning curve before you can start to achieve optimized results? So I don't think we really understand that, and that would have just been more helpful. And I'll say, frankly, in addition to some of the kind of the specific deficiencies in the presentation, there's almost nothing in your one-pager, right? Your one-pager really says nothing about exactly what the product is or how it works, other than you're optimizing control industrial processes. So a little bit more focus on, you know, the guts of it. How does it work? What does it look like? What's the sales cycle? What's the implementation? What's the legacy system burden? But otherwise, you know, I'm going to assume all of that is you have good answers to, and this seems like a pretty good opportunity for you, especially with your Brazilian focus and the mining industry. I mean, I really like that kind of specific sector focus. So good job.
Thanks, Eric. Armando? Well, we're actually, anything else to add to your earlier feedback?
Still like it.
Still haven't
But I'm
changed
going to
your mind.
piggyback on what Eric said, because I do think that I've got to assume that the actual getting the system working is pretty people intensive. There's all this IT integration stuff. It's not going to be cheap. So my guess is that this is going to be pretty capital intensive, because the biggest play here is the path you're going down, which is I'll install it, I'll take the risk, but I want a pretty big chunk of what the improvement is. And there are some kind of novel models that are kind of bubbling up, which is much longer conversation here. But for example, a good friend of mine just raised $6 billion with the UAE to do something similar to this concept, only applied to agriculture, right? And he's going to take on now that's what he's doing, is very capital intensive in terms of equipment and all that, but it's still the same concept. He takes all the risk. He gets 50% of any improvement in returns from any large in agricultural site that he winds up installing into. So I think there's some creative things in here that may be how you structure it, but also the kind of capital you're going to need to really be able to do this on a large scale. So I would explore a little bit more around the go-to-market and the revenue model.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of activity in the mining industry, which is such an old industry, whether it's the satellite technology, now locating where they're going to dig and all that. And I think the mining companies are probably getting a little bit of fatigue with everybody trying to sell them stuff as opposed to make them more money. But they probably have a limited amount of bandwidth on time and money to go after this. So it's not sure it's going to be that easy of a sales cycle. The 3%, again, sounds very low to me. I'm not sure how you're going to quantify that. And if after a year and they've saved money, you have to like start saving them even more money to start participating? Or is this like an evergreen thing? I just don't think companies are going to want to keep paying 3% forever for the savings. So it might be a little heavier lift than the presentation talks about. So I agree with the prior comment on, I'd like to better understand exactly where you're creating the value from, so I can get a feel for, how long these relationships will produce income for you. So I'd love to see you succeed and wish you the best. I just think it's going to be a bit harder than the presentation will lead you to believe.
Thanks, John. Asim?
So yeah, maybe I missed some parts of this. On the face of it, this seems very exciting, but 2 points I want to reiterate, and people have already said them. One is what Eric said. I wanted to know what is the implementation cycle on this thing. I can't believe that, there is some magical software which you go and put on top of any industrial machine used in mining, and suddenly it makes it X% better. I mean, how would that work? So presumably, and I'm sure you have answers to this, but I think if those, is he not on the call? Oh, he is there. Yeah, Fabio is there. So I think those answers should be right away. I have seen that generally as a practice, Max, which is why my most popular question in these events is, what do you do, right? Generally, people explain very less what actually is happening there. Just one slide on, when we get a new customer, this is what we do. We analyze their machine, then we fine tune our software, and then look, this is what happens, would have helped me at least. The second thing is, which I believe John made that point, how do you measure things like these, right? And more importantly, what if the machine manufacturers themselves come with better versions every 6 months, or they go into Tesla model where they are upgrading their own software every 6 months, and there is improvement in efficiency there? How is your customer going to know whether it's because of your magic or just the machines are becoming better? So there's some detail there in my mind, but on the face of it, it is very good.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yeah, I agree with all the comments here. I think Eric kind of laid it out in his comment about really the value of the customer. I think really laying out more of the story for the customer will be helpful. John kind of touched on that. I kind of follow the industry, right? And John's right. I mean, if you look at Glencore, BHP, Rio Tinto, even Vale, which is big in your country, in Brazil, Anglo American, they're all very expense sensitive. I mean, they're all giving, these are big publicly traded companies. They're all putting out warnings about how they're really having to reduce. Now, you're providing a value to that, but certainly from the bean counters at the in the C-suite, you're in a long line of vendors, and I think helping to really alleviate that concern and the sales cycle and the lead up time and the story of value for the customer, I think could be emphasized a little bit better. But overall, a very good presentation.
Thank you. Yuka?
Yeah, Fabio, nice clarity and improvement since your last presentation. I have 3 specific points of feedback. Number 1, I would suggest adding your product overview slide in this kind of intro presentation that talks about the cycle of data collection, analysis, and then the actioning part in terms of controlling the machines. It makes it more tangible for investors in terms of what you actually do. Number 2, I think it'd be good if you could maybe preemptively try to address the concern about velocity, because these are conservative customers. Sales cycles can be long, implementation cycles can be long. So there can be a concern about like, what does pipeline translation to revenue and growth trajectory really look like realistically? So if you have thoughts on that, you might want to be able to either react to those points or make it even preemptive. Then number three, when you think about fundraising, I think there are a few things that you could think about, and we can also talk more about these things. But typically, like $2 million today for this type of company, it's not a very big seed round, actually. So the question is, will it give you enough runway to get to Series A, or will you need to raise more? And also, if you're planning to give about 10% to investors, so take 10% dilution in this kind of round, typically, if you look at Carta stats, typically the dilution in seed round is about 20%. So I think the question is whether investors would get enough in this round at your current parameters are not to be interesting for investors, and whether you would also have enough capital. One possibility for you is to break things into a pre-seed round and do a smaller pre-seed round at a lower valuation, get more ARR in the books, and then do a larger seed round at a higher valuation. So happy to share more stats and kind of compare notes on that and discuss further of that those points as well.
It's a great offer. Thank you. Okay, let's vote again, please. On Brainial.
We have 23 for Brainial.
Great job. And stick around for 1 second, please, Fabio. And Armando mentioned it, and Yuka mentioned it. The improvement. And one of the things that's important to me in a CEO is coachability and desire to improve. And Fabio really clearly has that. We worked with him a couple times, and then we worked this morning and suggested some changes. He made all those changes, and they all help. So congratulations on improving and giving, put the improvement aside, just on giving a very good pitch and being coachable. And I saw you taking notes as well as Tony was also. So congratulations. Good. Robin, let's please introduce the third entrepreneur.